In our next category, we have performance by an actor in a leading role. And to me, I have to start with my snub because I don't like it, we just talked about it. If Dune Part 2 came out in September, I don't think there's any way Timothée Chalamet does not get nominated for Dune Part 2 because that performance, the
Yeah.
speech that he
Yeah.
gave when he became the Lisan Al Gaib, it gave me chills. There were shivers running down my spine in the theater, and I had never experienced that in a movie theater ever before. It was, and I still watch that movie, and sometimes I'll just skip to that scene just to see it. And the way that he transformed his character over the course, because like the beginning of the movie, he's a completely different character by the time he gets to the end. And that's part of the writing and the storyline, but also Timothée Chalamet's performance. So, I mean, to me, my snub is Dune Part 2, and I would only give it like I can only say like he's the dub for a complete unknown because of what he did in Dune Part 2. Because I just think he was the best this year. And I'm like, I feel like I want him to win, but it's not for his performance in A Complete Unknown. It's for his performance in Dune Part 2. So, because like, I didn't see Conclave, so I don't know if Ralph Fiennes like how good that performance is. And I tried to watch The Apprentice. Again, I'm the kind of person that like, I like studying films, but I also tend to be like Ty said, I kind of need a lot going on in my films a lot of times.
Mm,
Uh, and The Apprentice is not one of those movies. Like
mm.
it doesn't have to be action. Like it can be like a political thriller kind of thing. But The Apprentice is definitely not that. So I'm like, I didn't get to see enough of that movie to really be like Sebastian Stan should get this. And also it's
Mm.
really hard to see Bucky become Donald Trump. I think that I just couldn't get past that while I was watching it, and maybe that's why I didn't really stay up as much. But for me, like my snub and dub is Timothée Chalamet, and probably shouldn't give it to him for his performance in a different movie than what he's nominated for. But Dune Part 2, to me, the performance was too good to just let it go. So I got to give it to Timothée Chalamet as my snub, and I guess kind of my dub for this category.
So I haven't seen any of the movies in this nomination list, despite wanting to see more than half of them. Uh, but I agree that I'm disappointed that Timothy gets nominated for A Complete Unknown. Of the clips that I have seen of him and like his SNL performance as
Hmm.
Bob Dylan, I don't really like him as Bob Dylan. I'm not the biggest Bob Dylan fan to begin with, but I
Yeah.
don't know. It doesn't appeal to me, and so certainly, uh, the idea of him winning that does not spark joy for me.
Yeah, I feel like you
I
a big Bob Dylan fan to really like A Complete Unknown. I honestly don't know any of his songs, which is probably going to be very controversial.
I honestly, actor in a leading role is just a category that
Blow
it
me away.
didn't engage me as much as supporting roles or actresses this year. Like
Mm.
this was the most boring of the four individual persons choices. This is the one I cared the least about,
Yep.
which I think is the testament to number one, supporting roles. I think supporting actors and actresses this year absolutely stole the show in a lot of their respective movies. Um, and so I guess I'm gonna agree Timothy for Dune Part Two,
Yeah.
but just as a default kind of choice.
Hmm. To me, that was the only show-stopping performance. But again, obviously the Oscars didn't quite see it that way. So Madison, what you got?
Yeah, I also agree. Like this one doesn't really hit hard for me because, well, I mean, I could have done a better job in seeing the movies, but I think I'm definitely interested in watching The Brutalist and The Apprentice. What is Sing Sing?
I hadn't heard of it
The
until
movie
this
by
list.
Colman Domingo's in it. I think he's like in prison for something he didn't do, if I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
some kind of I read a little bit about it. Obviously you can't really pick a best actor by reading about a movie. But just to see what it was
Yeah.
about, I think it's
Oh, I
about
do like that actor though, Colman Domingo.
I do like him too. Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
he's very good.
Adrien Brody's great. Ray Fiennes, I'm gonna have to go with him just because I did love Conclave and A Complete Unknown. Like, I did enjoy the SNL performance. Yeah, Bob Dylan is kind of one of those people. I feel like compared to the other musical biopics we've had, like he doesn't really stand out as somebody that I would make a biopic about.
Mhm.
Um, like you've
Yeah.
got Elton John and
Or like the recent
Freddie.
Elvis movie that came
Mm,
out a few years ago was like as a movie seemed so chaotic and wild and like matched the tone of the character. I just didn't get that vibe from any of the trailers for A Complete Unknown here.
hmm It kind of felt like maybe more along the vibe of the movie Yesterday that's like about the Beatles songs, but like
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would completely agree with his performance in Dune Part 2 because holy moly.
That's just holy moly. And I mean,
Holy moly.
for a biopic, it's not just about the music, it's about their life. So
Right.
like you don't just have to have like great music. Your life kind of has to be interesting enough to warrant a whole biopic. And whether that's because your life is very chaotic or, obviously fame does a lot of different things to different people, but it's not just, oh, you have good music, so you get a biopic, or you've been really influential to a lot of people, so you get a biopic. It's like it has to be about your life and what happened in your life that's supposed to make it interesting. So I can
Right.
see why Bob Dylan is like, well, he makes good music, but like, what else happened in his life? I don't
hmm
really know.
Mhm.
Well, like the Whitney Houston one, that one was interesting to me because her life was more interesting than her music. That's what I came away with that. Because she
Mhm.
didn't write a lot of her music. She just has like an amazing voice, but like her life is interesting too. So,
We also had the monkey this year from Better Man as
Yeah,
Robbie Williams, very talented monkey.
oh yeah,
yeah,
well, we were talking about that one.
we were. We actually, when we were at work, because we both work at Live Nation, I was like, so does everyone know he's a monkey? Does he know he's a monkey? Is And I guess the idea is just like he viewed himself as a monkey, so they just had a monkey do the whole thing, and obviously computer generated, and they don't address it at all. It's just like
Really?
instead of an actor, we're
That's
gonna have
It's
a
like
monkey.
Ted.
I love the memes I've seen online, and it's just like a scene out of context, and someone just says, "What's Caesar from Planet of the Apes doing here?" And he's because he's just singing or something.
Uh, I mean, to me, it's like if you need to cast a monkey as your singer in your musical biopic to make it more interesting, maybe the biopic is not as interesting as you think it is. Like, I hate to be that blunt about it, but I mean, like, if that's what you're doing to get eyes on it, maybe it's just not as interesting as you think. But again, that's just a humble opinion of a film fan. So, uh,
I agree. Timmy should have been nominated for Dune Part Two. I have not seen A Complete Unknown. I would like to just because he's in it. He's one of my favorite actors working today. He seems like such a great person. Um, love him. But I would have loved for him to be nominated for Dune Part Two because, like you said, that scene where he becomes the Lisan Al Gaib and he's just speaking to all the Fremen is just so magnetic and cinematic, and his performance is just like just dripping with this like conviction of like he's really stepping into this role of becoming this leader, whether that's a good thing or not. It's I don't really want to give too many spoilers, but just the way that he just makes himself the most important person in that room is just absolutely phenomenal. He literally goes through such a transformation, especially when you have part one and two back to back, which I still need to sit down and double feature. But when you
Yeah.
start part one and Paul
uh,
Atreides is this young man that's wise and gifted beyond his years, but and he's trying to understand this world that he's in with both of his parents because he's got his father being a duke on one side and having that kind of power that he must step into, and he's got Lady Jessica on the other side being a Bene Gesserit and stepping into the more spiritual powers of the sisterhood, and just kind of trying to navigate both while also trying to navigate being on Arrakis. It's just so I could just do a commentary on those movies. I love them so much.
yeah,
But
check
him starting trying to figure out his place in the world and just having the events of part one and two that he goes through, and then eventually him stepping into this role that he doesn't necessarily want to do, but he has to do it, and he's trying to step into this path that he knows is going to cause him pain and heartache, but at the same time, it's like the only way that he can see, and he can see like 10,191 different paths to go through, but this is like the only one. And
Mhm.
so you can just see the multiple layers of his character and his acting in that scene so well. And then also in the last scene between him and Austin Butler and when he's talking to Zendaya and Christopher Walken and all of that, like that is just it's so good. And it's not just because I love those movies so much, but I think it's because like he genuinely would deserve to be nominated for Best Actor. And maybe for Dune Messiah, he will be. Fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Um,
I think when I saw him give that speech, what made me be like, this is an Oscar worthy performance is
mhm,
I can't see any other actor doing that. Like I
mhm,
watched that scene and I was like, okay, this is like not only is this role Timothée Chalamet, I would not like some actors you can swap out for different roles and it would be fine.
yes.
You probably get the same performance. I'm like, I don't think any other actor could do this the way Timothée Chalamet is performing it right now. He has convinced me
Mhm.
is the only one that could give us this performance right here, and that's what went into me being like, he's got to be the dub.
And I think like he's just such a perfect actor to have like that just that transformation even just across the second movie but especially across both films because I
Mhm.
agree with you. I don't think any other actor working today really could do that so well because when you get to that scene you're just such in awe because of just the power that he's commanding but also where he started versus where he's gotten to and it's just such
Mhm.
a powerhouse performance.
It kind of reminded me almost of Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, of how at the very beginning of the series, like he is very understandable and relatable, and everybody's a touch different. But at some point, from there to the end, you will disagree with him, and you will feel a switch to he has become a villain. Like some people have a higher tolerance for that than others, but like at some point, he switches from this everyman to this villain. And I feel like the same with Timothy. By the end of the movie, I'm in dread. I'm dreading what's happening. I
Mhm.
like I'm aching because he has transformed into this person that he feels like it's the only path for him to go because he can see how things are going to transpire. He can see the domino effect of choices and consequences to see how things play out. And yet at the very beginning he was just a boy trying to survive. And so like at
Mhm.
some point down this line something switched, and to see him capture both without it being feeling like a hard decision, to feel so gradual, um especially being shot out of order, that still always blows my mind that
Mm.
actors will do these scenes out of order. And so to just like
Yeah.
completely transform, I'm 75% this way, 25% this way, to just kind of lock in and do it is
Right,
just, it's
right.
mind blowing. And I think I
Yeah.
agree that he absolutely was perfect in that role. And I remember being so hesitant before even the first one came out of like, I don't even know, because like I
I
that
don't
was
know.
like my favorite book as a kid. I loved Dune so much, and I'm like, I don't even know if Timothy is good enough to be Paul. I don't know if he could do it. And then here I am afterwards. I'm like, it's impossible to be anyone else. He was born to play this role. What was I talking about?
Yeah. And it is full
Yeah,
circle.
it's
'Cause, I can vouch. Ty tried to get me into Dune so many times when we were growing up.
So many times.
This global phenomenon. So he was right. He was right all along, like all throughout middle school. Because we went to the same middle school and high school. He was always like, "So did you read Dune? Have you read Dune? Have you read Dune? Did you read Dune?" And I regret to say that I never did. And now it's this global phenomenon. And I'm like, it's the best movie that came out this year. So, Ty, you were right. I know your younger self would probably really relish onto this moment, but
Yeah, I
great.
can stop going to therapy now because like my goal has been fulfilled in life. I feel
Stop
vindicated.
going to
Thank
therapy,
you.
but you're going to start going to film therapy.
Film therapy.
yeah.
Yeah.
We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and anywhere you find podcasts.
Yes. If I may just real quick, I would like to change my snub just because I want to keep singing its praises. I'm going to change it to Justice Smith for I Saw the TV Glow.
Nice.
Oh,
He
Yes.
definitely.
was amazing.
I
He
saw
was
that.
amazing in that movie, and like people are going to be talking about Doom Part Two for forever. So
Yeah.
I'd like to use what little platform I have to shout out that movie.
I really like
Yes.
Justice Smith, so I didn't know he was in that movie. I didn't realize that.
He's really good. He'll
He was
he'll
in
make you cry a lot.
he was in the Society of Magical Negroes, this movie
Mhm.
this year, and that movie
Mm.
was interesting.
That came
And
out in 2024?
yeah, it came out earlier this year,
Oh
Oh
wow.
my.
and he was in a really really sad movie with Elle Fanning. It was very depressing. I can't remember the name of it, but I just saw it on Netflix, and I was like, wow, this is
Mm.
very emotional. And I won't spoil it for anybody because it is incredibly emotional. But if you're not ready for that, just be prepared.
Just be prepared.
Okay, so yeah, no, I mean Justice Smith. I didn't realize he was in that movie.
Oh, I was just gonna say I do have one more thought on Timmy's performance also.
Go
To
ahead.
jump off of the Breaking Bad comparison, I would also compare it to Al Pacino in The Godfather as well. Because when the
Mm,
movie, just the transformation she goes through, where the movie starts off and he's this character that you just really get behind, and he's talking to yeah, Diane Keaton. So there's an opening scene in The Godfather when Al Pacino's talking to Diane Keaton about the things that because his family's really associated in the mafia and everything, of course. And so he's talking about some of the things that his family has done. And he explicitly says to her, that's not me, that's my family. That's not me. Um, and then by the end of the movie, he's I guess this would count as a spoiler, but also, he's really done that kind of similar transformation that Timothée does in the Dune saga, where he has stepped into the role of becoming more of what his family does. And throughout the movie, you see him gradually go into that role. And 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 also Al Pacino is also one of my other favorite actors of all time. And so just kind of seeing the parallels between his performance in that trilogy and Timmy's performance in this one is just so unique and captivating. And I think it's really an interesting parallel.
Mhm.
Hmm.
mm.
For the record, if a movie is over 50 years old, there's no such thing as spoilers. It is.
I think
That's fine. It's okay. We're good.
Unless if somebody has the opportunity to like go into the original Psycho or something, then don't spoil that for them because
That's a
because
little,
not
yeah.
knowing that is amazing.
True.
Or
yeah.
or if you don't know the Star Wars twist somehow, but let people experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know the Star Wars twist. So
I want to be one of those people that like there's I don't think I wouldn't post this, but there's all those clips on YouTube of kids watching The Empire Strikes Back for the first time and having reactions to that revelation. I want to do
Yeah.
that for my as I want to be like, okay,
mhm.
here we go, we're gonna watch Star Wars, and then just having that. Because for me, I cannot remember if I knew that beforehand or not when I saw them
Mhm.
because I was young enough, but I just really want to have that experience. So
You are what we would call
It's
Star Wars father. There's a brother in my congregation who I'm convinced he had a child so that way he could get her into Star Wars.
just,
Hearing
just spread
that
Star Wars.
moment through her eyes. But the problem is she didn't like Star Wars at all.
Oh
So
no.
9 years old, and he just got her into Star Wars because of Skeleton Crew. So it's the only Star Wars project she showed any interest in. And like
Oh my gosh.
we were out, I can't remember where we were doing, but my wife was like, "So do you like Star Wars?" And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, I like Skeleton Crew." Literally, I thought this man was going to cry. Like I looked at his face, and he felt he
Aww.
had like tears welling up. He's like, "You like Star Wars?" So yeah, you like Star Wars? Yeah, no, of course you do. Yeah, and I was
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan. Just maybe a little bit.
A little
that's
bit.
fine by us. That's fine by us.